right, so this week we're going to look at 4.1, 4.2, and part of 4.3, but the goal is to stop in the middle of 4.3 on Wednesday. All right, we will probably have to review that section when we get back to it, because it's going to be about a month before we do it again. But I think stopping on Wednesday this week is probably a good idea. Okay. So we're going to practice writing an equation of a line in slope-intercept form. And when I say we're going to do it 4 different ways, I mean the kind of information that they give you to do the problem. So sometimes they might give you 2 pieces of information like that and say, write the equation of the line. That's probably the easiest one. Another way they might do it is they might give you a picture and say, write the equation of a line. That's a little bit harder, but it's still not too bad as long as they give you the picture. Another way they might do it is instead of giving you a picture, they just give you 2 points and say, find the equation of a line. And we'll go through the different ways in how you write the equation. First of all, can somebody remind me, what does an equation look like if it's in slope-intercept form? This is what we're going to put in that box in a minute. Anybody remember? Starts out y equals, yeah? Yep, it's going to be y equals mx plus b. So we'll write that down in a second. But here's the 4 different kind of problems we're going to do today. And this is all the information that will be given to you to figure out the equation. Those are the 4 types. You don't have to write down 4 types. We'll do examples. All right, so where it says recall, and you guys have a box right below that, y equals mx plus b, that's what you want to put in the top of the box. So it's a little bit smaller, and it says y equals, and there's 2 blanks with a plus sign. We're going to fill that in. And someone remind me again, what's the M stand for? Yep, that's the slope. Okay, a line can either slant up, could slant down, could be horizontal or vertical. Those are the 4 different kinds of lines we can have. And what about B? B is the... Cadence, do you remember what B is? Tirza? That's the y-intercept. Okay, so M is the slope. And B is the y-intercept. So you have an arrow pointing off to the right from the B. And right where that arrow is pointing, you could write that down. B is the y-intercept. And as a coordinate, it's always 0, comma, a number. Yep. Yeah. The reason it's always a 0 here is because the y-intercept is always on the y-axis. And if you have a coordinate and you want it to be on the y-axis, you can't move left or right. You have to stay on the axis. So the first number is always 0, and the second number is whatever the y-intercept is. Now, on the other arrow you have pointing to the left, that one's pointing to the slope, and you have 2 fractions with an equal sign between them. So remember, in terms of, like, if you want to think of it as an idea, slope is rise over run. Rise is up and down movement, just like we did in the warm-up. And run is left to right. if you go up and to the right, let's say we had 2 points like this, and I asked you to find the slope. If you go up, what kind of number would represent going up? A positive or a negative? Yeah, it would be a positive. So if you go up and to the right, it's a positive. Now, let's say we had a line like this. Here's a point, here's another point. And I said find the slope. Now you would go, bless you, down and to the right. Annika, if I go down, what kind of number do you think would represent going down? What kind of number represented going up when we did that last week? Anyone help her out with the last one? What kind of number represented going up? Yeah? A positive. So what kind of number do you think represents going down? A negative. Right? If we go down and to the right, that's going to be a negative slope. If we go a point here and a point here, we go up and to the right, that's a positive. So if you have a graph, then the rise and the run are easy to figure out because all you have to do is count them. So if you're looking at, let's say, something like this. Well, we could just count how many down and then how many over. But if you don't have a graph, like let's say all you have is 2 coordinates like that and it says find the slope. You could get out a piece of graph paper and you could graph this point and graph this point and then you could count. But an easier way to do that so you don't need graph paper is to use this formula. This formula is how you find the slope if you can't count it on graph paper. It's just using numbers. So these x values in the bottom and the y values in the top would represent numbers in a coordinate. The reason there's 4 numbers here is because you'd have 2 coordinates. The first coordinate has 2 numbers in it. The second coordinate has 2 numbers in it. That's a total of 4 numbers. So we have to fill in these 4 spots with the 4 numbers from 2 coordinates they give you. The only way you can really get this wrong is if you accidentally put the y's in the bottom. You want to keep the y's in the top. So the y coordinates go in the top and the x coordinates go in the bottom. Okay, does everybody have the formula for that one? Okay. So we're going to start out with the easiest one. How do you write the equation of a line if they give you slope and the y-intercept? Because remember, every answer we do today is supposed to look just like this. All you have to do is fill in those 2 boxes. But that's what every single answer should look like today. So how do you write the equation of a line given the slope and y-intercept? Okay, so there's going to be three bullets. Under the first one it says use, and then you guys have a blank. Next to where it says use, write down this, what's in bold. You're going to use y equals mx plus b. So that's the equation you want to use. Now the second bullet, it says plug in number given for, and you have a blank. You're going to plug in the number that's given for the slope for one of the letters. Which letter? M. So you're going to take whatever they give you for the slope, and you're going to plug that number in for M. You always have to make sure that you put the x next to it. Like if you left this off and you just wrote m plus b, no, that's not right. Got to make sure we keep that x next to the m. All right, and the second bullet is going to tell us what to plug in for b. Can someone remind me again, what's b? What is, not the number, but like what it would stand for, yeah? That's the y-intercept. So on the second bullet where it says plug in number given for the y-intercept, that's what's going to go on the first blank. And then where do you plug it in? Plug it in for b. Okay, we'll try a couple examples of that. We'll do one together, and then you guys can. I'll give you time to try one on your own. But this is probably the easiest one. All right, so there's our first one. It says write an equation of the line with the given slope and the y-intercept. All right, so Abby, what is the formula that we're using for every problem today?
Mx plus b.
And what does it start out with?
Y.
Y equals, yep. Our goal is to fill this and that in. All right, let's start with the -3. What letter does the -3 get filled in for? Yeah, M. So we're going to take that. We're going to replace that with M. And how about the -4? What letter does the -4 get filled in? Yep, that gets filled in for B. So in this problem, it's not going to be plus B at the end. It is going to end up being minus B. Why is it minus? Because B was a minus. All right. Does anyone think they could tell me what the final answer would be when you fill those two numbers in? Yep.
Y equals -3x
Yep.
minus 4.
Yep, exactly. That's it. Y equals -3x minus 4. If that minus wasn't with the 4, it would have been a +4. But the minus was there, so it makes it a -4. And that's it. That's the equation of the line. So if we're not drawing it today, that's not really the focus. We're not going to sketch anything by hand. But if I did, would this line be slanted up or would it be slanted down? This would be an example of slanted up. That would be slanted down. Yep. Yep, it would be slanting down because it's a negative, because of the -4. Right, because of the -3. So just to show you what this one looked like, -3x minus 4. It's going to be slanting down. And where is it going to cross the y-axis? Yep, at -4. See how it looks? So it's slanting down. And it does cross the y-axis at -1, 2, 3, 4. Perfect. That's what that line would look like. All right. Why don't you guys take a minute and try that one. So example B says the slope is 0 and the y-intercept is -2. So the slope is 0 and the y-intercept is -2. All right, guys, let's take a look at this one together. So they're telling us here the slope is 0 and the y-intercept is -2. Okay, so here's my equation. And Micah, what number am I filling in for m? Mike. 0. So we're going to start by filling in 0 for m. So we have y equals 0x. And what are we filling in for b? Finn?
-2.
-2. So there's our first step. Now, if you got this far, that's good. But we can simplify that a little bit. Because this is a 0, 0 times anything is always what? Yep? 0. So what just happened here is the x disappeared. Whenever the slope is a 0, that will happen. And that's okay. The x can disappear. So our final answer is really y equals 0 minus 2. And what is 0 minus 2? Well, mine?
-2.
-2. And that's what you should have as your answer. So the only time that the x can disappear from the answer is when the slope is a 0. If the slope is not a 0, then the x will not disappear. The x will always be there. So any question on that type? Yeah.
Do I write down 0 equals 2?
Do you write down what?
0 equals 2.
Well, that's, if you write 0, take away 2, you started to simplify it, but then you want to finish it and put what's in the box. So what if I had, let's just try this one. Let's say m was 4 and b was 2. Can somebody tell me what the equation would be if the m was a 4 and the b was a 2? Yeah? 4x plus 2. Now, the reason the x didn't disappear is because the m wasn't a 0. Yep. Yeah. How about if I had something like this? M equals 0 and b equals 5. Anyone think they could tell me what the equation would be if m is 0 and b was 5? Yep. Yeah, it would end up being y equals 5. Because m is 0, so you could start by putting it like that. But then 0 times anything is 0. And 0 plus 5 is 5. So when the slope is 0, that's kind of like a special case. Okay, questions on that? All right, so our second way. Remember, the whole goal is to find the slope and find the y-intercept. If they give them to you, like in the last problem, that's the easiest. A graph is a little bit harder because you have to figure them out yourself. So you have to know what you're looking at. Okay, so under where it says given a graph, the first bullet is use y equals mx plus b. That's always the formula that you're going to use. The next bullet says identify where the line crosses the y-axis. Joe, can you remind me, what is that?
M.
Well, not m, that's your slope.
B.
B. And what do we call that again? What's the fancy word for where it crosses the y-axis? The y-intercept, yep. So on the second bullet, where it says identify where line crosses y-axis, this is the y-intercept. So you want to write what's in bold. Or we call that b. So the y-intercept, that one's pretty easy to get because you don't have to calculate anything. You just have to look at the picture and see where it crosses. Now, the third step is to count. We're going to count because now we have to find the slope. And we're going to use rise over run. So you guys have two lines under count. The first one says positive slope. A positive slope is going to look like this. The line is going to slant up to the right. And a lot of times their slope is going to end up being a fraction. Could be like 2 over 3 or 5 over 7, something like that. But a positive slope is going to be up and to the right. Aiden, what would a negative slope be? Exactly. A negative slope is going to be down and to the right. So negative slope is going to look like that. So when you have a negative slope, you need to put a negative in your fraction. Where do we put the negative? Usually put it in the top. You would not be wrong if you put the negative in the bottom. You would still get marked correct. It's just usually when you have a fraction and it's negative, the negative goes in the top. It could also go just in the front of it, in the middle. We usually don't put it in the bottom. Okay, so positive slope, we're going to count up and right. Negative slope, down and right. But whether it's positive or negative, what direction do you notice we always go? There's one direction there that's always the same, whether it's positive or negative. Yeah? We always go to the right. Either up and right or down and right. All right, now for example 2, do you guys already have the picture printed on your guided notes? Okay. So that hopefully is the same picture. It looks good. 0, 2, and 4, negative 1. All right, so our first bullet says to use. How about, Annika, can you remind me what's the formula that we're going to use? And this is the same formula we're using as the last example.
Y equals mx.
Yep, we're going to use y equals mx plus b. Okay. And now it says for the second bullet, identify where the line crosses the y-axis. That is my b. All right, so how about Natalie? Looking at this graph, do you see where it crosses the y-axis? At 2. 0, 2. So 2 is going to be my b. I'll just write that off to the side. So b is 2. And now I need to find my m. Jacinda, what's m stand for again?
M is the slope.
M is the slope. To find the slope, we're going to count. We're going to count. First of all, when I find the slope here, is this going to be a positive slope or a negative slope? Look at which way the line is slanted. Yeah? Yep. Do you know what kind of slope it's going to be? Yep, good. It's going to be negative. So it's a negative slope because it's slanting down. Since I know it's negative, I'm going to put that right now so I don't forget. Now we want to count down and then right. Can anybody tell me how many down do I have to go to get from this point down to the same level as this point? Yep, Tirza? Okay, we're going to go down 3. Exactly. So down 3. That's my rise. In this case, it's down. And then I have to count how many over. Yeah?
4.
Yep. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now that we know the slope and the y-intercept, this problem is just like the last one. Just fill those 2 numbers in and write your answer. Okay. So using those numbers, anyone think they can tell me what the final answer would be here? Yeah, Tim?
Y equals 1 and 1, 4.
So what's m?
M is negative. Oh, wait, never mind.
So what's m here?
Negative 3 over 3/4.
Negative 3 over 4, yep. And now, what do you get when you just fill that part in first? You'd have y equals, and then what would go right there?
Negative 3.
Anything else?
Over 4.
Over 4. And what always goes next to the slope? So what do we put next to that slope so we know it's the slope? Yep. Yep, we got to put the x. The only time the x wouldn't be there is if the slope came out to what number? 0. But this one didn't come out to 0. So negative 3/4 x. And we need one more thing on the end. Yep. Plus 2. Exactly. So that's how you write the equation of a line looking at a picture. Negative 3/4 x plus 2. All right, let's try another one. Okay, you guys have the same one printed. I know it's a little bit smaller. Do you have it printed on your guided notes? So the first point is negative 3, 3. And the next point is 0, 3. All right, let's do this one together. All right, how about Sean? Can you remind me what's the formula we use? Yep, y equals mx plus b. And I usually start by finding b. So Alyssa, where does this one cross the y-axis? Crosses at 3. It's that dot right there. So we've got that. And now, is this line slanting up, slanting down, or neither? Neither. Well, if it was slanting up, it would be a positive slope. If it was slanting down, it would be a negative slope. So the slope here is not positive, and it's not negative. So what's the only number that leaves for the slope? It must be 0. If a line is perfectly horizontal, it's not slanting up and it's not slanting down. That means the slope is 0. So you don't even have to count rise over run this time. There's no rise. You don't to get from this point to this point, you don't go up and down at all. All you do is go left and right. And when all you do is go left and right, that means it's horizontal. All right, so now what's going to disappear because my slope is 0? What always goes away when the slope is 0? Yeah? The x. Yep, the x is going to disappear. So fill in 0 for the m. Fill in, Natalie, what are we filling in for b? 3. And then 0 times anything is what? 0. So this part cancels out. It's just 0. And Joe, what's 0 plus 3?
3.
3. And that's the equation. So I didn't show you this before, but now you know when the slope disappears and it's just y equals a number, that's horizontal. So when we did this problem right here, y equals -2, maybe you didn't know it at the time, but this is a horizontal line because the slope is 0. Okay. So any question on how to get the b and the m looking at a graph? All right, so still not too bad because you can get the b without doing really any work at all. You just have to know what to look for. And even the m, all you have to do is count. You don't really have to do any arithmetic. You just count. So the third type we're going to look at, this one is on the back. And the third type is if they give you 2 points. So the first bullet says use. And can anybody tell me at this point, what do you think we're going to use? Yep. Yep. I'm going to use y equals mx plus b. So what did we say earlier about the y-intercept? If we go back, the y-intercept is always 0, comma, a number. So if they give you a coordinate and the first number is 0, the second number in the coordinate is the b. That's the first thing we have to remember for this. So the number in the coordinate with the 0, and then this part is bold. You guys want to write down on the first blank, y-intercept. And on the second blank, after the word or, you're going to put b. So the number with the 0 is the y-intercept. So then how do we get the slope? Well, they're not going to give it to us. They're not going to give us a picture where we can count, like rise and run. So we're going to have to use this formula that I gave you earlier. They're going to give us 2 coordinates. That means they're going to give us 4 numbers. We have to fill in the 4 numbers in those 4 spots. So where it says use, and there's a big space there, you're going to write down this. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And what does that find? It finds the slope. And then in the last blank, you can put the letter m, because that's what they use for slope. I don't know why they use m for slope. I don't know why they don't use s. Maybe s looks like a 5. All right, let's try it again. So it says, write an equation of the line that passes through, and these are the points. Now, if you had graph paper and you really wanted to, you could graph these 2 points, and then you could count rise and run. But if you don't have graph paper, we're just going to do it like this. Okay, so looking at those 2 points, does anybody think they know what the b is in this case? Remember where we said to look for b. It's always the number that's with something. Yeah?
0.
Yep. It's always the number that's with 0. And what's the number that's with the coordinate that has a 0? Yep. -1. That's where it crosses the y-axis. The point 0, -1 is right on the y-axis. All right, and now my slope. To find your slope, what I would do is start out like this. Put a fraction with 2 minus signs, and then put 4 boxes. Just like that. We're going to fill in those 4 boxes. What I want to do is make sure we know which number goes where. The first number in a coordinate, is that your x or is that your y, the one that I have highlighted? Yep, listen. That's an x. So we're going to call this one is my first x value. This 0 is going to be my second x value. What about the 5? What do you think that's going to be? Yeah? That's going to be my first y value. And the negative 1 is my second y value. So each coordinate has an x and a y in it. The first coordinate, I call that my first x and my first y. The second coordinate, I call my second x and my second y. Now fill in these 4 numbers in the 4 spots that it says to up above. Okay, so the upper left blank is y2. Joe, what's y2 in this case?
-1.
Yep, y2 is -1. So put that right there. The next one in the top is y1. Yep.
Can I put the rest?
Yep. Aiden, what's y1? 5. Yep, good. Okay, let's see. How about Maya? What one goes in the lower left according to our formula?
0.
Yep, x2, which is 0. And one in the lower right? We're going to put x1, which is -3. And once we do that, that's our slope. Okay, so the top, -1 minus 5. Jacinda, what's -1 minus 5? Yep, that's -6. And in the bottom, we have 0 minus -3. So what happens when you do 0 minus -3? Yep. The negatives cancel each other out, and what do we get? 3. So now my slope is -6 divided by 3. What's -6 divided by 3? Yep. -2. Okay, so there's our slope. There's our y-intercept. So now, write the final answer. So using the m and the b that we just found, anyone think they can tell me what the final answer would be? Yeah?
Y equals -2x minus 1.
Y equals, let's see, -2 is my m. And what did you say b was? -1. And there you go. That's your equation. -2x minus 1. Question on that? All right. Yeah, we can try. Let's try one more of those. The last type is really the same as this type, so we're gonna practice another one after this. All right, B and M. Micah, what's my b value this time?
0.
And how do you know that? Does anybody agree or disagree? And if you do, can you tell me why? So Micah thought the b value was 0. What do you think, Abby?
B value is -5
Why?
because it's in the coordinate with 0.
Right, it's in the coordinate with the 0. So the b value is the number that's with the 0. So b is -5. And the slope, and I'll set this up. This would be my first x, my first y, second x, second y. And if you need the formula again, just you can scroll right back up to it. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So Sean, what number is going to go in the upper left?
One would be
Which one of these 4 goes in the upper left? No, not x1. Anybody remind me what goes in the upper left? y2. y2 goes in the upper left. So we're going to do -5. How about the one in the upper right? Yeah,
Also -5.
that's also -5. And now in the lower left is x2. Joe, what's x2?
8.
8. And in the lower right, we put x1. Natalie, what's x1?
0.
0. Okay, so let's look at what happens in the top. -5 minus -5. Minus a minus. What's that turn into?
Cancel each other out.
That makes a positive. So that's what we have in the top. -5 plus 5. And we might as well do the bottom. What's 8 minus 0? Yeah. That'd be 0 minus 8. 8. Yep. 8 minus 0 is 8. And what do we get in the top? What's -5 plus 5? Yeah. That's 0. 0 divided by 8. So pretend you had $0 and you divide that to 8 people. How much does everybody get? 0. 0 divided by 8 is 0. So my slope is 0 and my y-intercept is -5. What kind of line did we say earlier has a slope of 0? Yeah, horizontal. This is a horizontal line. And anyone think they can tell me what the equation would be? Yeah.
y0x.
And what happens with the 0x? It just cancels out. So the only thing we get over here is just a number. Just y equals -5. And that's writing an equation with 2 points. Any question on that? Okay, so the last one says using a linear function. This is really the same as 2 points. It's going to be exactly the same thing. So first of all, we're going to be using the y equals mx plus b again. And the only thing that they do is they're giving you a coordinate, they're just writing it a little different way. But what they're going to be giving you in this problem is a coordinate. So just to kind of show you, they're going to give you something like this. What I just put a box around in red, that's a coordinate. You just have to know which number is which. This number right here that I'm pointing to, that is the x. So the number that's inside the parentheses next to the f, that's the x. And the number that's after the equal sign, the one that I'm pointing to right there, that's the y. And as long as you know which one is x and y, you do this just like we did the last problem. So on your guided notes where it says number after the equal sign is the y coordinate. And if we write this as a coordinate, this is going to be the number with the 0. And we know the number that's with the 0 is always the y-intercept. So we're going to do this exactly the same as the last one. And then the last bullet says, label your x's and y's. And we're going to use this formula. What does this formula calculate for us? Gives us the, the slope. Forgot to write that in. Or, what letter is the slope? M. Alright, so we're only going to do one of these because it's exactly the same as the last one. So what I just put boxes around, those are coordinates. Can somebody tell me how you would write the first box as a coordinate instead of writing it this way? Like something, comma, something. Yep.
0, 10.
Yep. This is the coordinate 0, 10. What they wrote in that box is just a different way of writing, but it means 0, 10. Can anybody tell me what this second box means? Yep.
6,
That's it. Now this is exactly the same as the last problem. There's your two coordinates. Okay. Start with B. What number here is my B? Yeah?
It would be 10.
It would be 10. How come?
Because it would always be the number that follows 0.
Yeah, it's always the number that's with the 0. So B is 10. And my slope is the y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Let's call this one my first x and my first y. And let's call this second x and second y. Abigail, what's y2? 34? Oh, sorry, I wasn't very clear. Natalie, what's y1? 10. Now I need x2 and x1. Joe, what's x2? 6. And x1, Finn? 0. Okay. 34 minus 10 is 24. And 6 minus 0 is going to give me 6. And 24 divided by 6 is 4. So, there's my B. B is 10. And my slope is 4. Brady, what's going to be my final answer plugging in my slope and y-intercept? Perfect. Y equals 4x, because 4 is my slope, plus 10, because that's my y-intercept. Any question on that? All right, so last, yeah, I should have just enough time. Last question. So what we're going to do in the last problem is same thing we've been doing. We're going to write an equation. The only difference is this equation is going to mean something. It's going to be about a problem. Okay, they're going to give you some information, and it'll have a background, like context to it. So what we're going to find, and what we've been finding in every problem we've done today, is the equation of a line. That's called a linear model. So at the second bullet, where it says when we are given a word problem, the goal is, you want to write what's underlined in red. Take the information that you're given and turn it into two coordinates. If you can take what they're giving you in the word problem and make it into two coordinates, then this is exactly the same as the problem we just did before this and the two we did before that. We just have to create two coordinates from the word problem. Then, the last bullet, once you have the coordinate, you can write the equation of the line. But you can't write the equation of the line until you have two coordinates. How many, can someone remind me again, how many numbers are in a coordinate? Yeah, there are two. And we need to write two coordinates. So we're going to be looking for four numbers. 2 x's and 2 y's. What I think we'll do is we'll start the word problem, we'll identify what the coordinates are, and I'll have you guys finish finding the equation for homework. Well, let's see if we can at least figure out what the coordinates are. Does everybody have that last sentence? Using the coordinates, we'll find the equation. Okay. Now, example 5. Do you guys have this already written? It says U.S. power plants, renewable energy, all that. Okay. So you don't have to copy it because that's already written on your paper. So it says, excluding hydropower, U.S. power plants use renewable energy to generate 105 million megawatts of electricity in 2007. So they generated this much energy in the year 2007. Then it says they generated that much energy in the year 2012. That's all that's important in this whole thing, those 4 red boxes. The rest of this is just saying write an equation using the 4 numbers up above. So they give you a table, and do you guys have the table printed on your guided notes? Okay. We're going to write down 4 numbers. X is going to be the first column, Y is going to be the second. In 2007, how much energy did they make? What does it say? Yeah? 105 million. And that was in what year? That was in 2007. So how many years since 2007 is 2007? Yeah? Zero. Now the next one says by 2012, how much energy did they generate in 2012? Yeah? 219 million. And that was in what year? 2012. How many years is 2012 since 2007? Yeah? 5. And there's your coordinate. 0, 105, 5, 219. So now, for part of your homework, try to finish finding the y-intercept and the slope and write the equation. And we'll go over that in the warm-up tomorrow.